We are beginning with breaking news just coming in. Hamas says it has agreed to release all of the remaining Israeli hostages, whether dead or alive, under U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza. The militant group also says that it's willing to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independent technocrats. Hamas says some elements of Trump's plan still require further negotiation, the group adding that it appreciates Arab, Islamic, and international efforts to bring about an agreement. You may remember the U.S. president had given Hamas until Sunday evening, 6 p.m. Washington time, to accept a deal or face an even greater military onslaught aimed at its destruction. Well, for more now, I want to pull in Fawaz Gerges. He's a professor of Middle East politics and international relations at the London School of Economics and Political Science. Fawaz, we just spoke a couple of hours ago wondering if this might happen, and now we've got Hamas saying yes to turn over all of the hostages. What do you make of this? Because we've been hearing now for 2 years that the hostages were the most important leverage that Hamas had in dealing with Israel.
Really, there's no surprise. It's a conditional yes. Hamas has made it very clear in the past few months. It's willing to release all the hostages in return for the end of the war. What Hamas did today or just now is a very clever on the part of Hamas, because it has agreed to release all Israeli hostages, alive and dead, because this is a high priority for President Trump. But it has made it very clear there are other points that need further negotiations. What are we talking about? What are the points? It wants guarantees that Israel will pull out of Gaza permanently, as opposed to really occupying an area on the Israeli-Palestinian border. Because Israeli Prime Minister has made it very clear he will keep the Israeli army in many parts of Gaza, just yesterday. And Hamas also wants to make clear that it won't lay down its arms. It won't surrender. So Hamas now is beginning a process of negotiations. It hopes to do so. And by saying, look, I'm willing to release all the hostages, it has preempted President Trump and also has preempted Benjamin Netanyahu. Before the Israeli families of the Israeli hostages. So this is the beginning of a process. I think it might take a few days, it might take a few weeks, but at least from Hamas' point of view, now the ball is in the Israeli court, as opposed the burden is on Hamas.
And Fawaz, we're also getting reports that Hamas has said yes to relinquishing all control and authority over the Gaza Strip and turning that control, that administrative control, over to an independent body of technocrats. So that in itself is Hamas saying, we will give up control, and you're saying the condition is if we get a complete withdrawal from Israel.
Brent, Hamas' position throughout in the past few months, 6 months, we want a comprehensive deal. We want to release all the hostages. We want Israel out of Gaza. We will not have any role in running Gaza. They want the Palestinian Authority or an Arab, group of managers and leaders. But the sticking point, Brent, is Hamas arms. Hamas has repeatedly said it will not lay down its arms. It will not surrender, because this could really mean the end or spell the end of Hamas' identity as an armed resistance movement. I think what we have seen today is that, here is I know this might come as a surprise to you. I don't think there is any change in Hamas' position. What Hamas has done is to really turn the table on its head and remind everyone that here are the priorities for Hamas. It's willing to agree to a comprehensive deal, release all the hostages in return for the end of the war, and Hamas will not have any political role in the management of Gaza, but it would like to keep its arms. The question is, will President Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu accept Hamas keeping its arms? I doubt it very much.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, if you're saying that this is putting the ball back in Netanyahu and Israel's court to basically agree to a complete withdrawal, you and I both know that inside the Netanyahu government, you have those factions that would let the government collapse if there was any agreement to that at this moment.
Benjamin Netanyahu and his coalition will never agree to end the war in Gaza. In fact, they want absolute victory. They want total victory of Hamas. They want all the hostages back. They want to destroy Hamas. They want to disarm Hamas. And they want to keep a permanent military force in Gaza. So again, back to square one. What I'm trying to say to your viewers is that Hamas now has kicked the ball back into Israel's court. So you're going to see a great deal of talks and negotiations in the next few days. And I take it that the Qataris and Turkey and Egypt will do most of the talking to the Americans, and the Americans will be talking to Israel as well. But remember, the fact that Hamas has made it very clear it will release all Israeli hostages is a preemptive move against Benjamin Netanyahu. They want to show the American president that they are willing to send all the hostages back to their beloved families. But they want some points to be clarified regarding Israel's military presence or occupation of Gaza, and also the status of Hamas the morning after the end of the war.
Okay, but Fawaz, I want to flesh this out a little bit, because you and I, we've talked about the importance of the hostages for Hamas, and we've heard time and time again that the hostages were the most important part of the leverage that Hamas had in dealing with Israel. By saying that they will return all of the hostages, isn't Hamas giving up the strongest weapon it has against Israel?
Absolutely. Hamas knows that. This is the only strategic card that Hamas has. But now, remember, Hamas is facing a moment of reckoning, an existential moment. Hamas' back is to the wall. The pressure is overwhelming, not just by the Americans and the Israeli, massive, brutal war, but even by Turkey and Qatar and Egypt. And Hamas wants a comprehensive deal. What Hamas wants in return for releasing all the hostages is an ironclad commitment that Benjamin Netanyahu will end his war in Gaza. Hamas will not get Benjamin Netanyahu basically commitment to end the war, so we're back to square one. But Hamas is buying time, is trying to really have a wiggle room out of this particular strategic straitjacket in which the Trump administration and Benjamin Netanyahu has really put Hamas in the past few weeks.
Let me ask you this, though. By Hamas agreeing to turn over all of the hostages, though, isn't Hamas also winning favor in the eyes of President Trump, which in turn will allow President Trump to put more pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to pull out and end the war? I mean, isn't this a move that will gain points in the White House for Hamas?
That's why Hamas said we will release all the Israeli hostages alive and dead, because Hamas wants to really basically send a message to the American president. They are genuine about really releasing all the hostages. They want a comprehensive settlement. They want an end to the war. But I don't think Trump will go for this, because already Benjamin Netanyahu has made it very clear to President Trump. He has been able to really, influence President Trump's final ceasefire plan. So at the end of the day, I think we're back to square one.
Well, what about the amnesty?
Hostages in return for the end of the war, Benjamin Netanyahu will never end his war, will never basically pull out of Gaza. He wants a buffer zone permanently in Gaza.
Okay. All right, I want to ask you this before we run out of time. What about the part of the plan that offered amnesty to Hamas militants who lay down their arms. Do you think that in the eyes of Hamas that is still a goal that is worthy of agreeing to surrender the weapons?
Surrender. Hamas, it's a non-starter for Hamas. Any kind of decision, any kind to basically lay down their arms and surrender and go to exile will basically spell the end of the identity of Hamas. Since its establishment in the 1980s, Hamas has prided itself on being the vanguard of armed resistance against Israeli military occupation. Think of how much loss and suffering Hamas has basically taken in the past 2 years, not to mention the 60,000 Palestinians, victims, and the entire Gaza Strip is being destroyed. For what? For Hamas to surrender and go and be humiliated and go to exile? I doubt it very much.
Yeah.
And that's why it seems to me, I think what we are seeing today is another round, another moment, another turning point. I don't think we're going to see an end to the tragedy that's unfolding in Gaza and the loss and the suffering of the Palestinian people, and also the suffering of the Israeli hostages who have been in Gaza for the past 2 years.
Yeah, and we will certainly be watching, too, to see how the Trump White House reacts to this and to see if that deadline for Sunday evening, if that deadline is still valid following this announcement. Time will tell. Fawaz, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on because it is getting late. We appreciate your insights tonight on this breaking news story. Hamas saying that it will give up all of the Israeli hostages. That is part of the Trump peace plan for Gaza. Fawaz, thank you.